Communication Minister Ursula Owusu-Ekufo has waded into the PDS contract termination saga, insisting that government went into the deal with all good intent. She therefore thinks government should be commended for detecting the challenge and subsequently terminating the deal. She was speaking on the Super Morning Show this morning with my colleague Daniel Dazi on Joy FM, and Mrs. Owusu-Ekufo called for a ceasefire in the wake of the rage against government for the sudden manner in which it cancelled the deal without any recourse of the consequences.
Well, I think we all need to realize that electricity generation distribution is a key utility. We can't do without power. And so any issue surrounding power should be of great concern to the government. Their entry into the compact was well-intentioned. There are issues, major issues there that need to be fixed. But if the company, and we all lose sight of the fact that it isn't government which oversaw the procurement process in this, it is MEDA and the American government. They said the whole process was managed by them, with government as a key stakeholder observing, more or less, and they running some of the issues by them. And then we decide that this is of key interest to us, so please focus on this area, particularly the shareholding structure. I mean, it's our asset, and so to make us 20% shareholder in that was an honor. And so when we took office, the president insisted, and rightly so, that the majority shareholding should come to government. Now, if one of the key conditions, to Ghana, if one of the key conditions in the agreement is not maintained, and the guarantee is meant to protect us in the event of default in the management of our asset, and so it should be of interest to us. And so if they are mandated to provide an insurance bond, and at the end of the day it turns out that there are major issues with it, should we overlook it? Now, if they continue to manage this asset and there is a problem and they default, or our asset is damaged in any way, how do we get protection from it? So this is a fundamental condition of the contract, which they were unable to meet. Should government just have glossed over it?
Allow them to remedy it?
Well, I'm sure they were given the chance to remedy it. In the time that the suspension was announced till the termination was announced.
Information we have is that they were not given the chance. In fact, they did remedy it, but this decision was carried out anyway.
I'm not aware of it. And to how did they remedy it? But the point I'm making is that it's so fundamental that in other smaller procurements that we've done, if you don't provide a good bond, you're disqualified. I mean, that's one of the terms in which people are not shortlisted. One of the conditions that if they don't meet, they don't even make the final cut at all. So it's a big issue, and I think we need to look at it that way. It was government which noticed that there were challenges with this guarantee. It was government which took steps to protect our assets by suspending the contract for a while it looked at it. It is government which is insisting that we look at this whole structure. Maybe it's seen that PDS didn't quite have the capacity to undertake the task that it had contracted to. So at all steps in the chain, government had taken steps to protect our major asset, which is our electricity and power distribution network. How do we get faulted for it?
At a news conference yesterday, the Deputy Energy Minister, William Oreku-Edu, assured that there will be no job losses to workers. And we'll bring you that sound a little later on. But joining us on Skype is energy expert Mr. Ishmael Ejekumhene. He's also a commissioner at the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. Mr. Ejekumhene, good morning, and thank you for your time.
Good morning.
So what have you gathered as an expert with regards to the termination and what the country risks losing? Are there possible job losses?
No, as for job losses, even when the private sector entity was coming in, government guaranteed the jobs. of the staff, and it was one of the main agitations, sticking points when they were negotiating the concession. So I don't think if we have any concerns, it will have to do with job losses. But so jobs will be secured, I would imagine, and because government didn't even want to sack people when the private sector was coming to take over.
Okay, when you say that government guaranteed the jobs, what exactly do you mean?
Basically, the concessionaire was forbidden from sacking anybody who still wanted to work with ECG and is an existing staff. So virtually the entire staff, human resource of ECG, numbering something like close to 7,000 were transferred en bloc to the new concession.
In your expert opinion, do you think that we need that many people working for the company?
That was always an issue because I didn't think so, but you remember the opposition that the unions put up against this whole concession, and it was one concern that some of us had, and we probably still have, because then if you saying that keep those same staff strengths, and even if they are not needed. But unfortunately, it was a decision that nobody was prepared to compromise. The government didn't want anybody to lose his or her job. So yes, the PDS were asked to keep everybody who still wanted to work in the utility, and nobody was fired.
Right. I think one of the major issues that come up when we talk about the ECG PDS is productivity and efficiency. Now that ECG is taking control back from PDS, do you think that they're going to be focused on being more productive and more efficient, or is it possible that things will remain the same?
I think from the evidence seen so far, these past few months, the people who were having so many challenges, they began showing some very positive results. The same human resource, nothing has changed apart from maybe their name and also the people who are at the helm of affairs. I want to believe, I mean, as a utility, if you don't want to be efficient, then you are not even, I don't even know why you should be a utility, because if you don't cut down on unnecessary costs, you can't remain productive, and you can't even run the utility efficiently. I want to believe that whatever happens, and we are yet to know the full plan that government has for ECG, once we know that, we'll be able to comment on whether it will be the way forward or not. But I don't expect them, it cannot be business as usual. Things will have to change going forward.
Possibly in the future, some job cuts?
Well, it depends on who takes over, and as for job cuts, I think if it's going to be a PSP again, then that will still have to be retained. Otherwise, there's going to be opposition from the labor unions. But in the long term, we need to look at whether indeed we need 6,000 plus people to run to work with ECG, or we want to do something else about the labor force. But that debate, we've gone past that, unless, of course, we're saying that it's opened again following the termination. But government had undertaken not for anybody to lose their job. It was a basis upon which the pools agreed to let this concession go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ejekumene, for your time this morning. And I have that soundbite for you from the Deputy Energy Minister, William Oreko, who was speaking at the press conference yesterday, as he assured that there will be no job losses for workers.
The sales and retail of energy license has already been suspended, and PDS, up until 9:30 this morning, was still in possession of the distribution of energy distribution license. That one will today be terminated by the Energy Commission as the law demands. ECG, when all these things have been effected, will assume full control of the assets, which hitherto has been in possession of PDS. One may ask, what happens to the workers of ECG, PDS? The assertion is that once there was no transfer, if the demand guarantee was not in place as of March, 1st of March, then it necessarily means that there was no transfer of workers. So the workers still remain the workers of ECG, and an ECG will be meeting the unions and the general workers' body today to explain to them exactly what has happened.